this one might be more of a philosophical question, but every once in a while I sit around and I wonder about Luzerne County and why it's in the position it's in, why it's failed to modernize to some extent. Do you do that, and do you have priorities as far as, boy, if we could just change these 1, 2, 3 things, what would they be? Or maybe you don't agree with my premise that it has failed to modernize.
I don't think it's kept up to the extent that it could. I think I break it down a couple different ways. One is just from an infrastructure standpoint. We're blessed by being in the 80-81 corridor. We've got some wonderful places for businesses to locate, industrial parks in Hanover, Crestwood, and then outside the district, Hazleton, Jenkins Township, and others. So there are plenty of areas where we can bring in business. I think a lot of what has held back business in Northeast PA is the same thing that's holding it back statewide, which is a very, in my opinion, antiquated business tax structure, and a structure that is just not conducive to attracting business. Corporate tax rates, we have the second highest rate in the country. We still have a limitation on losses that companies can carry forward on their taxes for subsequent years. We're one of only 2 states in the country to have that. There are other business taxes which I think make Pennsylvania look less attractive. The one thing that I can tell you is as part of my job and what I've done in the past is I've gone to other states to evaluate markets for expansion. I want to go and I want to start a business in Virginia. I want to expand to Ohio, and I've done that. And I'll tell you, the corporate tax structure and the business tax structure in Pennsylvania would be a huge red flag. One that would probably even eliminate our coming for a visit to even evaluate the area. It just.
You're not going to get on the plane.
Nope. I'll get on the plane, but I won't end up in Pennsylvania, and that's what we need to fix.
In talking with residents of the district, what are the biggest issues that they're talking about right now, which may or may not be your priorities, but what are they telling you?
Well, they are my priorities, and what I hear the most is jobs, and I hate property taxes. Those are pretty much the 2 that I hear regularly. As far as jobs, as I said, I think a lot of that comes from the business climate. I think we've seen that the tax incentives can be useful, the Keystone Opportunity Zone, but at the same time, if somebody comes here for a tax incentive, then they're going to be just as likely to leave when they get a better offer somewhere else. So it has to be that short-term coupled with longer-term reform. And I couple the 2 issues because in my mind, real property tax reform can't come until we manage to build up the base of companies and residents who are in our areas contributing to the tax base. You build the tax base, you raise the ocean, all the boats in the ocean go up. At that point, we would have the adequate funding to come back and do some meaningful property tax reform. And what we have now and what's being proposed, I think it's House Bill 1275, it's just not enough. I mean, that House bill has been sitting in committee since October of '09 with no action on it, and I'd be surprised if it moves significantly between now and then. So we need to look more comprehensive for our tax reform.
Mark, can I ask, as well on taxes, when you talk about, and I know this too, like the corporate tax structure, and how high it is, and then, right now we still have to plug, we still have a mismatch in our budget here in Pennsylvania. So coupled with the fact that we can't even, fill that gap, and if we, do something with the tax structure, I mean, what are some of the things that you see or you think that tax, that could change in order to, you know, build a better budget or fill that gap? I mean, what are some of the ideas that, you know, you see?
Well, I think one of the first things that we need to consider is expanding the role of private-public partnerships. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there where it's a win-win for the government and business to work together. One of the things that came up last night was the tolling of Route 80, and that's obviously a very controversial issue. But one of the areas that I said should be considered in that is a public-private partnership, where other states have done this, where they've brought in companies to help run, maintain the existing systems, and it's been a win-win as far as the infrastructure being better and things being still affordable to the individuals who use the roads or use the services. There's other legislation in place today which encourages companies to partner with the Commonwealth on employee training, so that we have that better qualified workforce here waiting for the business to come in. And then when we know the business is coming in, it's a perfect marriage. Use the Marcellus Shale as an example. There's no reason why the people who are drilling these wells, ultimately drilling the wells, shouldn't be Pennsylvanians from the areas where these are being put in. We have, you know, like the rest of the country, about 10% unemployment right now. That 10% of individuals out there should be getting training to help them find their next job. And to the extent there are some who are qualified to do well drilling work and want to do that, that's a win-win, because you've got readily available trained employees ready for the business that's going to come in. As far as the budget itself and the process, I think part of the problem with the process is there's no accountability for, first, the timing and then the accuracy of the budgets. And I'll take the timing first. We know that the last budget was 101 days late. That's completely unacceptable in any business that would end up having people fired. It's just not how you'd want to run business. And during those 101 days, did we lose the ability to provide services that were needed? Yes, we did. I think that we need firm dates by which each branch of the legislature has to have their budgets prepared and on the governor's desk for review. And I also think that for every day this Commonwealth goes without a budget beyond the deadline, every representative, senator, and the governor should permanently forfeit that day's pay. Because until you make them accountable for the delays that they're creating, there's no incentive not to hold the budget hostage, if that's what, you know, that's how it's been characterized, and just not work for the right of the people. The other issue, which is the second half of that, is the accountability once the budget's adopted. You know, I think I said last night, you know, you can give me a piece of paper and a pen and I can come up with a balanced budget. For 22 straight months, this Commonwealth has missed its revenue projection. We have not taken in as much money as we expected. So every month for 22 months, we've continued to build a deficit. That's a fact you don't hear. That's a fact that I haven't heard anyone take responsibility for. It's a fact I haven't heard anyone develop an action plan to stop. And until we have that kind of accountability in the budget and actual process, any budget changes we make are going to be simply things designed to meet a deadline, and then we just move forward with actuals which have no relevance to the budget. That's part of what the problem was in Luzerne County originally, was some of the revenue numbers that were presented were unreasonable, and you know, you can't rely on budgets that are unreasonable.